Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am excited to bring y'all more content about sports, but as you know, in my previous video, I talked about, you know, I want to talk about things that happened within this past year or two that caused me to just take a step back from YouTube and a lot of things in general to address. First and foremost, I'm going to just say this. I am a Christian. I do believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he died and rose for me and for my life. And he is my Lord and Savior. So that's the first and foremost. So this journey is honestly to tell about what he's done this past year for me. And he's done a lot for me, but I think this past year was just very, very significant. It was one of those moments in my life where I could just put a bookmark in it. Like, this is one of many things that he's done. So I'm going to talk about my mental health as a part of it, as the first part of it. And then we'll get into other videos about, just the transitioning from a full-time parent to a part-time parent and having to just, be at home with a newborn baby essentially at the time, and being more hands-on with her and all that fun stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's a lot, but God knows what he's doing. If you just set your pride aside and just really focus in on him, and you have established a great relationship with him, and just be sensitive to his voice, he'll guide you along the way. And you just have to be willing to accept it. It's going to look a lot different than what you think, what you're supposed to be doing. Who would ever thought that I would be in my position right now? I sure did. I kind of laughed at it many years ago because me and my wife actually talked about a couple of things that we'll get to in previous videos. But here I am. I'm starting the YouTube channel back up. So we're going to talk about mental health. Let's talk about it. So last year I stopped. One of the big things was the mental health aspect portion of it. So I left my job after 5 years. I really went into a deep, prayer. Some people say meditation, and just really wanted to, like, all right, God, is it time for me to leave now? Things are starting to just not sit right, and I'm starting to notice a lot of things, Lord. So I went on maternity leave, and throughout the first couple of weeks of maternity leave, I just really prayed and just like, all right, God, you gotta guide me, because I'm a sheep and I don't know no better, and I'm dumb. I admit it. I don't know no better, God. So you have to really make it very plain, simple, watered down for me to get it. And God being God, he said, okay. So I got a sense of peace. And not only did he give me a sense of peace to leave, he placed it on my wife's heart as well, and gave her a sense of peace to where I was able to step away from that job. So when I stepped away, a lot of things came up that I say I wasn't prepared to, because I wasn't at that time. I had to focus on, a lot of things of old in the past was brought up. And then a lot of things I just never addressed because I kept my mind busy doing things, whether it was sports, schooling, whatever it was. I kind of like distracted myself from the truth and from those things. And God was like, all right, it's time to address these things. It's time to lock in on these things. So, man, I struggled. I struggled. Uh, One of the biggest things was, well, a lot of people don't know, I dealt with pornography for, I wrestled with it for many years. And it's not like I was addicted to it and I would just watch it because I was, no, it wasn't that. It was just, it was something I would do out of boredom. And it was like throughout the day or anything like that. It was usually, at night, because I was bored and I was up and I was like, well, ain't nothing on TV. So I looked at it. I think that was one of the biggest things. And I'm not trying to jump from that real quick. I'm going to go back to that here in a little bit. But and then the other thing was I had to treat my wife and trust my wife in the manner. I have to, honestly, I really had to move past my mom. I guess because I was so used to, me and my mom was such a close knit, very close. And I really trusted her a lot with a lot of things. And we was very intimate with each other for its like conversations. And she never held anything back. And I was able to just talk to her about whether it's sex or anything like that, just anything under the sun. We was able to talk about it. So it was hard when she passed away, and I really never was able to trust anyone and to tell them things. People, because a lot of people tell you, oh man, you told me this and that, this and that. Well, I have no issue telling you about those things. It was easy for me, but certain things that I talked to my wife about, that I couldn't talk to my wife about. It was hard. It was hard for me to talk to her about it, even just approach it. And it had nothing to do with her, but it had a lot to do with me. Know a lot of people like, what the heck you talking about? Well, when you've been close to someone like a mother or a father or a parent, or a parent figure, and you talk to them in such a capacity, and then they leave all of a sudden, they pass away all of a sudden, and then you never address it. It's hard to transition into actually trusting someone else with those things that you would usually tell that person or those people. So, and that's what my difficulty was with that. Those are the two main things. But going back to me wrestling with pornography, that was a wrestle. That was a fight. It was a fight that I put up, honestly, for probably for a good 5 years. I want to say 5-6 years. And it was just, I can't candy coat it. Cannot tell you how much it took for me, because it was exhausting. Because here I am, being a young man in Christ, and I was wrestling with these things. Now I'm 31 now, and we're talking about like 7 years ago. I was like, I want to say mid to early 20s. So, and it was, here I am trying to walk this thing out, trying to conduct myself as a young man, a young Christian, man, trying to make this transition. And it's tough, because essentially this was my thorn in the side, and I could not get why I wrestled with it so much. And then eventually I sought counseling. I said this was my next step. Um, because around that time, I think the NFL, there was a movement in the NFL. I know Brandon Marshall. There was the my clause thing, and Brandon Marshall was a big advocate for mental health. So that was honestly, I was like, man, I kind of looked at that. It's like, man, if he could do it, and he's a pro athlete, man, I should be able to, to talk about it, to be like, but I wasn't able to. Not at that time, at least. It took me up until last year, like I said, to really deal with it. So as I sought counseling this past year, I'm talking about not just about that issue. The that issue came ahead when the funny thing is, it came ahead. My wife went out of town one day. Her and our newborn baby at the time, they went out of town. I think Kiara's maybe like 2 months. And I was at home alone one weekend, and I was in the back room, and I was alone. It was late night, and I was just like, whatever. I guess I'm gonna look at it. But then I was like, I don't want to look at it. But I kind of want to look at it. But I start to wrestle with the thought of not doing it, and wanting to do it. And I'm like, God, you got to do something. And I ultimately end up doing it. The flesh won out. And I ultimately end up doing it. And that's, but that night after doing it was like no other night, because for the next couple of nights, I wrestled. I became ill. I really became sick. I stopped eating. I stopped drinking water because I couldn't fathom. I was like, God, here I am. I've accomplished everything that I've ever wanted in life. Everything. Coming from where I come from, in very hoodish, poverty-stricken area in Shreveport, Louisiana. I mean, I had big dreams. And here I am. I've graduated high school. I went to college. I finished college. I got married. I bought a car. I bought a house. Started a family. And I began to think about those things. And I began to wrestle with those things. Say, God, how can you constantly show me grace when I'm constantly slapping you in the face? How? How can you show me grace when I'm constantly spitting on your feet? And I wrestled for several nights. Like I said, I became very sick, and like I stopped eating and drinking water, and I lost a lot of sleep. And then one day I found rest. And now I didn't get absolved. It wasn't like, oh, bam, it was gone that night. No, 3 months later, after that time, honestly, the urge just kind of went away. The urge went away. I was able to, I guess I began to just really, I was like, man, God, I want to do this the right way. I really do. I said, I don't want to just I don't want this spirit around my family. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy uh, for my family. So I began to talk to my inner circle about certain things. Uh, and surprisingly, they comfort me because, and they supported me, not because nothing, but they surprisingly to me because I wrestled with it and I held it in for so long. I was just surprised that they comforted me in that time with me wrestling with it for so long. Um, Man, and it was been a burden. It was a burden so heavy on me because not only did I wrestle with it for 7 years or so, it was something that was like implanted in me when I was a child. Because prior to, I ended up walking in on my mama and my dad in a room, and they was getting it on. Like when I was I think middle school. Yeah, I'll say about middle school. Yeah, I walked in on it, and but you don't know the fun thing was, first thing my dad would say, "Yeah, look at that TV, son." That's how you're supposed to do it. And I was like, I was like, oh crap, ugh. And I shut the door and ran out, shut the door. And this is before technology and all that crap got going. And I was like, I never thought about it. I kind of just left the house. Like, yeah, that's ridiculous. And then, here I was so many years later struggling with the very thing that kind of, the seed that had grew and grew and grew and grew, But I can say now, I'm confident to say now that I don't struggle with it no more. Because the simple fact that God, He really removed the urge from me. I really don't have the urge for it. And then I'm able to talk about it with those guys in my inner circle. Even if I have an urge or feel the need to do something, I hit them up. And we pray, we talk. And man, it's been a night and day. It's been really a night and day ordeal. So that was very, very, very important for me to address last year. So that was huge. And then it was the talking and communicating with my wife on a more intimate level, personal level. Now, I never told my wife that side of my life. At that time, I've told her we talked about it, and I became more dependent on her as well, as a part of my inner circle, about that too as well, because she needs to know. It's simple. She needs to know. And it wasn't that I didn't trust her to know that. Not just that, but other stuff. When I was feeling depressed, or when I was just, having, well, essentially it was depression, or I'm having anxiety about things. It was those things that I felt like I couldn't really talk to her about. So, but she needs to know. She needs to know that. And once I went to counseling primarily to seek help about my wife specifically, because I just found it hard, very hard to really, to like relinquish and tell her how I was feeling, what's going on in my head. And the biggest thing, the best thing that my counselor told me, she said, who are you to, who are you to hold, I don't want to misquote her, gosh doggone it. But she basically said that, who am I to hold those things back from those people, and for me to prejudge what they would feel, or what they'll think about what I said, what the information I give you. She said, that's so selfish. It was pretty much selfish, very selfish of me to do. And it was like, God, man, am I really that terrible? And I was like, I can laugh at it now, because I was like, man. So the funny thing is, Kiara, my baby girl, she was actually with me while I was having these counseling sections. So that's the funny thing about it. So that's very funny. That is very funny. And so I was like, but that was huge. So I began to like, what she told me also as well, she was like, allow them to feel those emotions. Tell them. Allow them to feel what they're going to feel. And I was like, crap. So I told my wife a lot of things. And so I also, one of the big things was my deal with the whole pornography thing, and the anxiety and the depression I would feel at times, and how it would come up randomly, and so I'm grateful, very blessed, and highly favored to have a wife that understands even when she don't understand. So, man, that's honestly pretty much it. Those are the main two things that really affected me as far as my mental health was concerned. It really, really kind of weighed me down. My struggle with pornography. And my inner ability to communicate with my wife on a deep and very personal level about what's going on inside my head and my heart. But I can tell you this today. I let her know everything. I love my wife. I love my circle. God is truly my foundation. But He's put people in my life that help build the house and fill the rooms of who you see today. And yeah, I know some people are going to look at me, well, I don't see you out and about. Well, I'm not around you regularly. But for those who see me out and about and regularly, that's where it's come from. Jesus Christ, my firm foundation, and my inner circle, whom God has chosen specifically to help guide me on the way, whether it's for a season or it's for a lifetime. I'm greatly appreciative of all of those people. So, well, that's it, man. That's it. That's all I got for tonight. Uh, I'll be talking about, oh, what's the next subject? Oh, yeah, that's right. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the transitioning from being a full-time dad to being more of an at-home dad, essentially. So, and man, let me tell you how God has his footprints all on that one. I can't wait to dig into that one. But y'all have a great night. Hope y'all be safe. If you're not in Texas, wherever you are, please be safe, because in Texas it's icy, icy, and people still think they could drive regular speed on ice. So, and people think that they just, they're invincible, and they don't take into account the other people on the road. So I just pray for those folks who are in car crashes, and I just pray for their safety and their health. And y'all just be blessed, man. Have a good night.